I don't want making voting for Speaker a tough one. I don't want to go to the floor and win with 220 votes. I think the best thing for our party right now is that you have 247 votes on the floor. If we are going to be strong, we got to be 100% united.
That's Kevin McCarthy, and he dropped out today in the race for House Speaker. Many people thought he was whipping just to get a supermajority, even though they thought that he had the votes. Now, the majority leader, Mr. McCarthy, made that announcement as House Republicans were in a closed-door meeting to select their nominee. He was the front runner to be that nominee, and according to people in the room, jaws dropped when they heard it, and it took minutes to process what that really means. Short translation is, the GOP caucus is in complete chaos as we speak. We learned from John Boehner that if you don't give the right wing of the party what they want, they will rebel, they will shut things down, they certainly will not go along to get along. And that's what the next speaker will inherit. Boehner says he will stay on. In fact, he was supposed to be on the Tonight Show tonight. He canceled his appearance to try and get some order in here in terms of finding a replacement for himself. What does this tell us about the state of the party? And, Chairman, I heard Republican after Republican saying they're trying to get Paul Ryan to do it, but they were up front. They said, I don't know why he'd do this job. There's legitimate questions. This is Republicans talking about Republicans as to whether or not we're showing the electorate that we can govern here. I never thought the House could theoretically remotely be in play, but if anyone could put the House in play in the next election, it seems to be the Freedom Caucus, which is saying not only will they not go along here, but they're not even clear. They forget about coalescing around a candidate. They can't coalesce around an agenda. And again, I'm not exaggerating what House Republicans have been screaming about for the last hour here before we came on the air. They're livid as to what just went down today.
Yeah. Let me first make it clear. To get things done in Washington, the president's got to lead, and he hasn't been leading.
No, this is a Republican issue only.
I know what you're saying.
Republicans are looking at other Republicans and they're saying no one mentioned the president today.
Richard, I'm just making a bigger point. The president hasn't. This isn't me. This is Bob Woodward saying this, and he's got to lead if you want to.
But the president doesn't vote for a leader for the Republican Party.
No, but the president has delighted in a childish way in splitting the Republicans apart in the House by the way he's done. Now, let me get to your point. We've got the biggest majority we've had in the House since 1928. When you have that kind of majority, you're going to have problems pulling together. You've got all sorts of different views, and to elect a speaker, you need them all. And that's what's going through. We're going to come up with a very good speaker. Meanwhile, good work is going on in the Budget Committee, Financial Service. This is why Hensarling does not want to lead the Financial Services Committee. This is why Ryan doesn't want to lead the Budget Committee. They're putting out programs that we're going to run in 2016, and when we elect the President of the United States, those programs will go into effect.
Including aides, are saying the reason they don't want the job is nobody wants to deal with the Freedom Caucus here, Scott. Nobody wants to deal with people who came with the explicit purpose of trying to, in effect, cripple the government. And Boehner has had it. I don't blame the guy. Every time he thinks he's got a deal, he goes in there, and his own caucus subverts him here with these 40. They can't find somebody who wants this gig. And McCarthy, when he bailed on it, there's no natural successor here. I don't know. Listen, as much as I may not agree with the policies, this isn't healthy for our Congress, let alone the electorate's confidence.
Well, no, it's not. And of course, you've got to have a speaker in order to deal with the debt issue. I mean, you're going to have somebody in place, which means Boehner's got to stay there. But he's not going to get them together either. And by the way,
can't you argue they're empowered tonight? They feel that they've won here? Well, that they've cut the legs out of a guy who is conservative, McCarthy, but apparently doesn't pass the purity test.
Now, he didn't have the votes. I'm sure of it. He says 220. He didn't have the 218, which you need. He didn't have it because people said, and apparently there's more coming out about this. They were extracting, promises from him or what have you. This gang of 30 and 40, by the way, I have no use for. I just want you to know that. Because they don't understand governance. What they understand is their raw politics, okay, which doesn't work in Congress. It never has, all right? And they're going to fail. And ultimately, Chairman, they're going to ruin, I think, opportunities for Republicans to win across this country unless they get their act together. And I blame them for this. And I really believe that Boehner was their first victory. They figured they could take whatever they wanted to with these 40 or 42 guys. I don't know how many it is exactly. And they could extract promises that you can't do from a speaker. He's got to work with the entire group. And I think it's really disgraceful. And by the way, it's chaotic. No, those guys, nobody knew, from what I could tell, that this was going to go. And this guy was about to walk in, and he did not have the votes. And my guess is they told him, we're not going for you, we're not going for the debt ceiling, we're not going for anything else. Why take the job?
If you don't have an agenda, what's going on here? At least know what you want. It's like they just want to say no.
Yeah, the next place they're going to have to look for a Speaker of the House is the Austrian Parliament in order to find someone right enough to lead the caucus. I mean, the bottom line is this: the problem is one of the Republicans' own making, and I agree with the county executive. It's their own making. The way in which we have redistricted, particularly in the South, some of these congressional districts where you've packed so many Republicans into a district, what winds up happening is there's no longer a competitive election between a Republican and a Democrat, and you have Republican on Republican. So therefore, the Republican has to go as far as he can to the right in order to win the primary. Gets into Congress, he runs as the outsider, the anti-establishment guy, gets to an institution which by definition is supposed to create laws that run the government. But there's this total sort of, a fringe element of the party is getting elected in these primaries, and it is now the tail wagging the dog.
What they, and just to put a point on it, they celebrate being called the Hell No Caucus. And there's a legitimate question how, if you want to get into government, how that is a policy you can do. Listen, I wish the best of luck for whoever takes it over here, but if it is Paul Ryan, free piece of advice here, make sure you get the concessions you want before you take the gig, or else you're going to be walking into a headache. I think he knows that, and I think that's why right now, by all reports, he's still a no on this one. All right, when we come back, you're going to like this one, Chairman. We're going to talk about Preet Bharara. Okay, when we come back, who's the most powerful person in Albany? And if it gets Cuomo, according to at least our friends over at The Observer, you would be wrong here. We're going to be talking about a power poll straight ahead.